They call him mad, a tyrant, a footnote in Rome's long parade of brutal emperors. Caligula, just another despot lost in the blood-soaked annals of ancient history. That's the version they gave you, the sanitized one, the one that glosses over what truly happened when this boy emperor took the throne of the greatest empire the world had ever known. But think again, because what lies beneath the name Caligula is not just madness, but something far more disturbing, more grotesque. A man not content with mere power, but obsessed with desecrating every boundary of decency, of sanity, of humanity itself. He didn't just rule Rome, he ravaged it. This is the man who turned his palace into a theater of sexual horror, who called himself a living god and demanded worship as one, who slept with his sisters, who made senators grovel as slaves, who turned executions into punchlines and banquets into blood orgies. This isn't history class. This is the real story of Caligula, where power and perversion spiraled into a nightmare of gold, gore, and godhood. The boy emperor crowned by madness. He was just 24 years old when he became emperor. Gaius Julius Caesar, Augustus Germanicus, nicknamed Caligula, meaning little boots, after the tiny military sandals he wore as a child mascot following his father on campaigns. Rome rejoiced when he rose to power. After the suffocating paranoia of Tiberius, Caligula was a breath of fresh air, young, handsome, charismatic. The Senate cheered. The people wept with joy. Statues were raised, coins minted in his honor. But that's just the beginning. Within months, the golden boy vanished. In his place, a monster. You don't learn this in school, but some ancient historians say a mysterious illness, or perhaps an assassination attempt, shattered Caligula's mind shortly after his coronation. What returned was a man with dead eyes, a vacant grin, and no sense of reality. Suetonius wrote that after recovering, Caligula believed he had become a god, not metaphorically, literally. He would speak to Jupiter, not in prayer, but in argument. He built temples to himself. He installed his own statue in holy places and forced priests to offer sacrifices to it. Rome didn't get a leader. It got a lunatic crowned with laurels and dipped in divine madness. His sister, his obsession. Caligula had 3 sisters, but one, Drusilla, was more than family. She was his obsession. At court, he paraded her like a queen, dined with her alone. Whispers echoed through marble halls. The emperor and his sister were lovers. The whispers turned to screams when, during a public ceremony, he declared her the new Venus, goddess of love and sex, and then kissed her, not like a brother. But what comes next defies reason. When Drusilla died of illness, Caligula didn't just mourn, he shattered. He ordered the empire into public grieving. No laughter, no business, no weddings. Anyone who smiled during this period risked death. He had her body embalmed and kept close. Some rumors say he visited it late at night. Others suggest darker acts. One senator who remarked too casually on Drusilla's death was tortured, then executed. And then he deified her. Made his sister a goddess, declared she had ascended to the stars. But Rome knew better. Their emperor was not mourning, he was unraveling. A palace of orgies and golden statues. Caligula turned the imperial palace into something unrecognizable. It wasn't a court, it was a brothel, a perverse carnival of wealth and lust. He filled it with prostitutes, some paid, some kidnapped. Nobles' wives and daughters were seized on a whim, paraded naked through the halls, and defiled. He installed beds in public banquet rooms. Orgies were hosted before stunned guests. Senators were made to watch, or join. But that wasn't enough. Caligula built a golden bridge between his palace and the temple of Jupiter, not just for spectacle, but to strut across it dressed as a god, trailing a parade of dancers and concubines. And then there were the statues. He ordered the heads of ancient gods removed and replaced with his own likeness. Imagine the temple of Jupiter, once sacred, now housing a 10-foot golden idol of Caligula, arms raised, demanding worship. Rome under Caligula was less a government, more a deranged circus of blood and lust. The god who walked among men. When emperors played at being gods, it was usually metaphor, a wink to tradition. But Caligula didn't wink. He stared down the heavens and demanded thunder. He declared himself the living incarnation of Jupiter, Apollo, and even Venus, crossing gender and divinity lines like they were stage props. He didn't just build temples, he staffed them with priests sworn to him, chanting his praises, making sacrifices in his name. And who did he name the high priest of this new cult? Himself. But it didn't stop at religious theater. Caligula took divine privilege to grotesque extremes. During a famine, when Rome begged for grain, he reportedly lined the port with massive statues of himself instead. Lavish displays while the people starved. He stood on balconies and tossed coins into crowds just to watch them trample each other to death for scraps of silver. "You are ants," he once said. "I could crush you all and never miss your buzzing." You don't learn this in classrooms, but Caligula also commanded that his image be worshipped in Judea, an act so inflammatory it nearly sparked a rebellion. The governor had to stall the order until Caligula's death. To the Jews, putting a statue of a Roman emperor in the Holy Temple was blasphemy. To Caligula, it was just another way to stroke his ego. Even Rome's own gods weren't safe from him. He once claimed he'd ordered Neptune, god of the sea, to kneel before him, and proved it by marching legions into the ocean to stab at the waves. They collected seashells as spoils of victory. The divine war had been won. Madness or performance art soaked in megalomania? Either way, Rome's skies darkened under a man who didn't just believe he was a god, but expected everyone else to believe it too, or die screaming. Executions as after-dinner entertainment. Power corrupted him. Absolute power entertained him. Caligula didn't just kill, he performed death. For him, executions were part of the evening show. At his banquets, guests would dine beside rows of chained prisoners. Between courses, Caligula would have some dragged away and killed on the spot. Sometimes as a toast, sometimes as a joke. One night when the theater was short of lions for a gladiator show, he reportedly ordered an entire section of the audience thrown in to be torn apart. He would wander the city in disguise, listening for insults. Those careless enough to mutter complaints were tortured, dismembered, burned alive. Others were forced to slit their own throats at his feet. Senators were his favorite prey, pompous, proud, and oh so easy to humiliate. Cassius Dio wrote of one nobleman, a former consul, who accidentally praised another emperor's reign. Caligula invited him to dinner and served his own wife's severed head as the main course. Then he watched the man break apart, bite by bite. You don't get this in sanitized textbooks, but the line between court ceremony and blood sport vanished under Caligula. To him, death was just punctuation. The marriage made in hell. One of Caligula's most infamous acts of depravity began in the middle of a wedding. Not his own, but a senator's. Caligula was in attendance when he saw the bride. Young, beautiful, trembling. He stood, stopped the ceremony, and declared, "She's mine now." He took her away right then and there, mid-ritual. Hours later she returned, ashen-faced, veil torn, walking like a ghost. The groom dared not speak. No one did. But that was only a rehearsal. Caligula would marry 4 times, but one stands out, a woman named Caesonia. She wasn't young, she wasn't a virgin, but Caligula adored her because of her wildness. He once showed her off at a banquet, naked and pregnant, boasting she was the divine vessel of his future godchild. He claimed her lust matched his own, and then proved it in front of guests. Some rumors, whispers scrawled on walls and passed by candlelight, claimed that their wedding night was no private event. The emperor, high on wine and mania, hosted an orgy so vile, so drenched in fluids and screams, that even hardened Roman guards turned away. You won't find these accounts in official inscriptions, but they lived on in ash-covered papyri, in the scandalized scribbles of soldiers and scribes. Because some memories refuse to die. The man who made a horse a priest. It sounds like satire, like a joke passed from drunk to drunk in a tavern, but it's true. Caligula had a horse. Its name was incitatus, meaning swift. He loved it more than most people. He fed it oats mixed with gold flakes. It slept in a marble stable draped in purple sheets. It drank wine from goblets. He built the horse a palace, with slaves, with furniture. Then came the appointment. Caligula made Incitatus a priest in Rome's sacred temples, and according to Suetonius, he planned to make him a consul, the highest political office in the empire. But why? Was it insanity? Or was it satire? Maybe Caligula was mocking the Senate, proving that a dumb beast could govern Rome better than the corrupt fools in togas. Or maybe, just maybe, he had lost all tether to reality. Rome under Caligula didn't just bleed, it neighed. The climax, the emperor who wanted a massacre for breakfast. It's said that absolute power corrupts absolutely, but with Caligula, it did something worse, turned cruelty into ritual, turned depravity into routine, and in the final, most appalling moments of his reign, it reached a level so grotesque, it's hard to believe it wasn't ripped from a fever dream. One morning, Caligula awoke in a particularly sour mood. The sun rose over Rome, but in his palace, shadows danced long and cold. He summoned his guards and ordered something unthinkable. An execution, not of one, not of two, of hundreds. Men, women, children, gathered from the prison cells below, most of them accused of petty crimes, or nothing at all. Their names forgotten by history, only their screams remain. He had the execution staged as a performance. The spectators, senators, foreign ambassadors, family members of the condemned. They were forced to watch. And then eat. Yes, Caligula demanded a banquet be served during the killings. Roasted boar, spiced figs, golden goblets of wine. Slaves carried trays of meat as heads were hacked from shoulders. Blood ran through marble channels. Laughter mingled with cries. "You must enjoy yourselves," Caligula reportedly said, "or you'll join them." Some fainted, some vomited. One noble woman tried to choke herself to avoid the show. Caligula had her revived, then forced her to finish watching. The massacre took hours. When it was over, he clapped and ordered dessert. You don't learn this in history books, but Rome never forgot. The palace walls were scrubbed clean, but the horror lingered. In every flickering torch, in every forced smile, in every shaking hand pouring wine. The haunting final detail. By the end of his reign, Caligula had made enemies of everyone. Nobles, guards, even his own family. He trusted no one, and no one trusted him. He slept surrounded by mirrors, watching for assassins in every reflection. The end came not with a bang, but a whisper of steel behind a curtain. A conspiracy of Praetorian guards stabbed him to death in a corridor of his own palace. Multiple blades, multiple wounds. His blood soaked the white marble like spilled wine. But even in death, he terrified them. They buried his body in secret in an unmarked grave, afraid that his ghost would rise to avenge him. Some claimed it did. They said his spirit haunted the Palatine Hill, screaming in the night, rattling doors, breaking mirrors. No one dared speak his name aloud. Because madness that deep doesn't die, it echoes. Even now, Caligula wasn't merely insane. He was the embodiment of unchecked power turned rancid, of a god crowned by fools who turned Rome into his personal theater of cruelty and indulgence. Was he a madman? Or just the most honest reflection of a mad empire? If stories like this leave your spine tingling and your mind racing, subscribe. This is just the beginning of the dark truths lurking in ancient history. Because if you think this was shocking, wait until you hear about the emperor who turned his entire city into a tomb.